Hello, me laddies! Welcome to Morning Coffee with Maddog Merv, and today is St. Patrick's Day. Yay! No, I'm not doing Irish coffee this morning. I don't have any Baileys, darn it. But otherwise I could. Let's see what's going on the channel this week, shall we?
Welcome to Morning Coffee.
Maddog Merv
Today,
got our French roast this morning
Bagel.
again. No wonder I'm a big fat guy. I mean,
And then
holy
they
cow.
I always had a schmear. A schmear.
so he's probably going for bagels. He's trying to steal.
Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it.
I have no clue.
And I got a bunch of chores to do. Oh, who wants to do that?
Today's shout out goes to a channel that I've mentioned before, but I'm gonna mention him again, and that's Tim Dumas. He runs this great channel called Bingham Canyon and Copper King Mine. He's got an amazing railroad in his model railroad in his basement that is patterned after a little town that was called Bingham Canyon that is not too far from here. Well, wasn't too far from here before the mine took over and completely wiped out all the little towns in that area. Anyway, Bingham Canyon and Copper King Mine is a channel that covers the history of the little town of Bingham, which was like not a mile wide, it was like 300 feet wide and a mile and a half long, big long. Anyway, it's an amazing history. And for those who are local here, it's an amazing history. For those of you who aren't local here and just want to see a really cool place that's, not too far away, we've kind of visited out in that area before, but Tim kind of brings it to life with all of the pictures and the stories that he has. So check it out. Bingham Canyon and Copper King Mine. So I think it was last weekend-ish, before last weekend, I had when you lay in bed and you're trying to go to sleep and your mind's racing and all that and you just can't shut it off. Well, one of the things that came to my mind was all of the adventures, all of the fun things that had happened in the last basically decade. And now 6 years of that we've had a channel for. But prior to that, there was some really neat things that happened. And particularly in the model building, my model building realm. So thought, hey, I'll share some of those with you guys. Yeah, I used to build a lot, and I mean a lot of airplanes. And I have very few pictures of those because it was during that time, like I've said, before digital photography came along. And I would take some pictures with my Instamatic, but then you'd have to go get them developed, and that cost money, and sometimes, you paid for it whether it was a good picture or not. So I've got some pictures, but I've got to scan most of them. So there's a lot of aircraft, there's a lot of ships, there's a lot of other stuff too, and a boatload of cars. And you saw in this first installment some of the cars that I had done back then. So anyway, I hope you guys found that interesting. I'll do more parts as time goes on, just kind of take you guys back a little bit, take me back a little bit to some of the builds that I was doing years ago. It's funny because I'll go through some of these scrapbooks I've got and look at pictures of some of the work, and I'll go, wow, I did that? How about that? Wow. So it's good for me from time to time. It's definitely inspiring for me. So I hope you guys found some inspiration from it as well. There. On that demon. Oh, wait a minute. It was the demon. It was the demon that we did on the kit hoarder stash this week. Holy cow, I'm losing my marbles. On the kit hoarder stash, we did the demon. Thank you. Since then, I started the kit. I started the build. I was agonizing over the color. I already know what I want to do engine-wise, interior, everything else. I know what I want to do with it. I've got a plan. The problem was color. And the reason I say that is Chrysler Corporation in that period of time, the early 70s, You can say what you want about them, but one thing you can't say is that they had dull colors. They were very, very bright, vibrant. And so I've got my pick of some really cool colors to paint this thing. And I'll explain why I made the decision I did when I go into the build, which will probably be next month sometime. But I started out getting that painted and some of the decals on, and I like where it's going. So I've been busy with that this week. I've also been working on the Guam, the USS Guam, which we reviewed last year. It's a hobby boss, 1/350th scale USS Guam, which is a large cruiser, an American large cruiser. So I've been building that, continuing work on that this week, and we're making some great progress. So there's another show coming up, sometime in the near future. We got lots of things going on. So behind me here is the assembled flight deck, not the tower, but the flight deck. And you can't see it, but I've started painting it. We'll put out a tutorial probably next month on how I do the painting for it. But it's a good size. It's a good size deck. I mean, hey, if you're gonna have a, might as well have a. Size does matter, especially when you got 32nd scale aircraft. You got to have a big deck to put them on, So anyway, we'll cover that in a few weeks. And let's see, this week on the stash, we might do the Kate, we might do, I think it's a 56 Chevy. Anyway, I've got a couple other cars that I can do. So we're going to have something for the kit hoarder stash this week. Tune in for that. So the show tomorrow. A while back, somebody had requested a tutorial, or not necessarily a tutorial, but had asked how I do landing gear on some of these big multiple landing gear aircraft, like the 72nd scale KC-135 series that have 4 per landing gear. And I'd never really thought about it, but I know that sometimes these kits can be a struggle. So I'm putting together a little tutorial on how I do it. I'm sure there's lots of good ways to do it, but just kind of how I do it, so that you can see you can see my method in how I get those wheels on and get them straight and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's what we're going to do tomorrow. I've broken my cookie. So we, as you know, it was 3/14 this week. So here I got a little pie cookie to go with my coffee this morning. Oh yeah, it's good. So this week, holy smokes, it has been busy. So you see, I've got the flight deck that I put together, and I got the first layer of paint on, and it's drying. Drying as in it's curing. So it was like 3 days ago I painted it. I'm gonna let it dry. It's an oil-based paint, so I'm gonna let it dry and cure really good before I do the rest of what I'm gonna do on it. So that's, speaking of projects for the channel, I was on one of the forums the other day, and somebody had asked a question about painting yellow on a car body. And they had sprayed a primer, let it sit really good. They'd come back, sprayed the yellow, and it was thin in some areas. And I thought, oh, I know how to not fix it. I mean, I know how to fix it, but I know how to prevent that. And I thought, you guys got to run into some of these problems sometimes. I'm going to show you coming up here in a few weeks. Again, because I've kind of shown it before in some of my car painting videos, my model car bodies. But I'm going to go over it again, and particularly I'm going to use yellow this time, just so we can yellow, white. Sometimes they can be very difficult to paint on a car body. So we're going to have a tutorial coming up probably next month on that I think you guys are going to like. So stay tuned for that. You guys have a great week. I will see you tomorrow for the tutorial on doing aircraft landing gear. See you then.